Good morning, we're on 42A. So I first want to share something that Robert messaged me yesterday during the day, which I thought was a very good thought, and it's going to be relevant. I think it might help us today as well. And we're talking about the negative impact of flattery on multiple levels, on the person's character, on a societal level, creates a society of dishonesty where compliments aren't compliments and criticisms aren't criticisms. Everything is an agenda, lacking that honesty. On a personal level, corrupts the person's character. The person's constantly looking for ulterior motives in their relationships with others, and ruins the honesty. And yesterday, the Gemara said that a person who's got this kind of negative flattery character, this dishonesty, then he burns like straw. That was the verse. The verse describes his hell as burning like straw. And we suggested that the meaning perhaps is burning like straw rather than burning like coal, which will last for a long time, in the sense that a house of lies, it burns up very quickly. It crumbles. You have to constantly be patching one lie with another, and the whole thing crumbles eventually. So Roberts suggested that when it crumbles, right, a person's faced with all the dishonesty and has to just give in and say, you know what, this was all one big massive mistake, is because his whole life is crumbling down, is the opportunity to rebuild. So which is a truism in general about hell. A way to understand hell, at least in the way Chassidus understands it. It's not punitive. God is not punitive. God's not looking to punish people.
Insulting, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's insulting.
Insulting what?
The person gets very insulted.
In hell.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, a person's very insulted. But again, it shouldn't be seen as punitive. God's like, you had too much indulgence, so we're gonna make you suffer and pay for it. That's not a Jewish God.
But the description of the punishment, for lack of a better word, or the effect, is directly related to the cause.
Oh, so that's the point. So the circumstance of hell is like almost a direct consequence and created by the behavior. So it's not punitive. Like a teacher tells a kid you're missing recess because you misbehaved. What does missing recess have to do with your misbehavior? Irrelevant. The kid misbehaved, so he's being punitively punished by not indulging himself in his recess because he misbehaved during class. There's no relationship, and I'm not convinced that this is a good educational philosophy. But the educational thinking is that the kid will associate bad behavior with bad consequences. But in reality, there's no relationship, and sometimes, depending on what kind of kid and what age the kid doesn't even associate the missing of recess with the misbehavior. He just thinks of two bad things: misbehaving and recess. Doesn't associate that one's a result of another. They're different types of kids, and you have to know what you're doing. But just saying, when it comes to Hashem, it's not the way it is. It's not punitive. It's net result, meaning, right? We refer to the world to come as the world of truth, Olam Emes, right? So, in the world of truth, where you see everything for its absolute truth, so the truth is either extremely painful or extremely delightful, depending on what it was. Right? We don't experience disconnect from Hashem now when a person does a sin. But the truth of that disconnect is extremely painful. If I were to experience it, that would be hell. The joy of connection to Hashem, I don't experience now. But that joy is immense. That's heaven. Right? So, from that perspective, the acknowledging the truth of that which is negative, even while it's painful, is extremely valuable, because that's the way you heal from it. The way you heal from it is by acknowledging the truth of how terrible it is, feeling all the shame and pain of that experience, and then you can truly let go of it. A comparable way to think about that in our human life is deep therapy. If there's a person's past trauma that's not allowing the person to move forward in life, because it's weighed down by negative past experiences. So a good therapist doesn't get the person to get over it. They get the person to face it, to face it, accept it, feel it, and sometimes it is very dark and extremely painful, but going through that is the liberation. Because you come out the other end I know it's there, it's a truth, and it's a bad truth, and I'm still moving forward. Right? That's like at the end of hell, the person goes to heaven. Right? Because positive truth always outlasts negative truth. So the negative truth can be accepted and felt in pain in a painful manner and a shameful manner. Sometimes you feel, especially if the trauma is self-inflicted. A person might feel deep shame in a therapy session, but then that helps them emerge at the other side. It's much healthier. So
that's the
yeah,
initiation point for all tshuva, really.
mm-hmm. That's exactly what the teshuva is. The person faces the ugliness of their reality, feels the shame and the pain of that, accepts it, and then can move forward. They can truly move forward.
Why don't we start discussing hell though?
Oh, because
as a consequence of flattery?
That's okay. So that's right. So now back to Robert's point, where the Gemara says that a person who lives a house of flattery, it's like a house of straw,
Yeah.
and therefore it burns up. After it burns up, Robert suggests it is an opportunity for further growth. Now I'm elaborating on that, and that the Gemara refers to that as hell, which is what hell is, to burn down all the negativity so that you can have a new growth. So the moment the person accepts and acknowledges that I've been living a life of lies, where everything is ulterior motive, everything, no flattery, every compliment I said is not a real compliment, every criticism I said is not a real criticism. And as soon as I can face that and allow it to burn with all the pain of that burning, then I can build a new proper home afterwards, a new proper house after.
Well, there's a physical.
Right, there's a
physical collaborative with this. You don't have to wait till you die for this, because it's telling you
exactly.
You're gonna have headaches.
You don't have to wait to die to have this hell. You can have this hell right here now, which is a much healthier version and a less painful version than having that hell in the world to come.
Well, this Gemara,
that's right.
This Gemara on flattery gives you a long list of crap that's going to happen to you.
It's exactly
while
right.
You're living.
Exactly right. Yeah. So that's what we were suggesting yesterday. The hell described here isn't necessarily the hell after life, but the hell here. And the sooner you go through that, the better off you'll be. Mm-hmm. Right.
Funny, I thought of that.
Yehoshua's example is absolutely wonderful, and Rabbi, that you drew from that the whole idea of a house of straw, or like we say, a house of cards, because it's not only the house that one lives in on the outside, but what is the house that one lives in on the inside? Yeah. And that's talked about with regard to the sukkah. Some people have the most beautiful sukkah in the world, but do they recognize a sukkah within themselves? Your father was made an allusion to that the other day in the Maimor. And so the whole idea is, sometimes those who structure themselves in such a way as if everything is okay, but they don't realize that everything is crumbling within, until they come to that point where they can construct a true house that is stable and can really permeate and be a part of everything they are.
Yeah. So and to the point here that the first step is to recognize that it's crumbling, allow it to crumble, and then you can build. So long as you're propping up this lie, it's always shaky. And the moment you accept that this is false, this is fake, this is not true, allow it to crumble with all the pain involved in that, allow it to burn up like straw, and you can build a new home. What do you want to say, Alan? Sorry.
It's amazing that we brought the subject up, because I never thought of it at the time, but I'm thinking of it now. When this guy came in to rob me and I shot him, I just cracked his skull. The bullet went right through here, cracked the skull. But I was ready to shoot it. I was ready to kill him. And the trigger
was recorded.
I was ready to kill him. He ruined my whole business.
Sure.
I mean, people were afraid to come into the store, and I was ready to kill him. I was just on the verge of pulling the trigger to kill him, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna have to live with this for the rest of my life. Because I killed him for no reason.
You're gonna create a living hell in your own head.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
No reason,
That's heavy.
Yep. Whereas when I shot him, he had his gun, which was self-defense.
Right.
But killing a man in cold blood.
That's something you have to live with.
It's amazing that
it
came up.
You want to get a taste of that, you can Google this. It's watch interviews with soldiers who have to live with the who have to live with the thoughts and the memories of the actions they've taken. Not necessarily because it was bad. They could have been completely fully in the right, but the truth of what they did is a living hell.
You gotta be a cool person to push you to the back here.
Yeah. All the soldiers.
You always gotta be up to deal with things, which is what we're saying now.
Yeah.
It's rebuilt.
Okay, so I think this is a good segue to the next section of the Gemara to help us understand the analogy the Gemara is about to give. So the Gemara now switches to, not switches, but advances to, where's my pointer? Here we are. Advances to discussion of flattery on a societal level. Till now we've been talking about it on a personal level and what it does to the person's character and the consequences of living with that. Now the Gemara goes to on a national level. The Gemara says as follows. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines on the top of the page, the third word on 42a, then Beis and Aleph.
Just before you start,
Yeah.
is there a difference between positive flattery and negative flattery, or is that a misnomer? Because I mean, that speaks to intent.
The Gemara doesn't discuss it, but I like to think that we're talking about here a falsity, a falsehood.
Right, so either way, yeah,
Yeah.
it's built on a lie.
That's right. It seems like it's ulterior motive, like I'm flattering you to get X, but not because.
Right.
We actually learn in this week's parsha, in Rashi tells us, mixus shvachav lefanav, right? Rashi comments on the fact that when the Torah describes Noach, it describes him as a tam and a tzaddik, right? Righteous and wholesome. But then when God speaks to him, God says to him only one of them, not both of them. And Rashi comments to say, from here we derive that in the presence of the person, you only say partial praise. Behind his back, you give all the praise, which I guess is kind of ties in with this Gemara here in the sense that when you're not talking to the person directly, there's no agenda that I might be trying to get something out of you. I'm talking about you. And from that perspective, speak as highly as you can about the person. But to his face, where there's like, maybe there's an ulterior motive, dial it down a little bit to make sure you're being absolutely truthful.
There could be a kosher flattery.
Yeah.
I mean, we're supposed to, the only time, well, a Torah scholar, we can flatter a Torah scholar because we want to become like them. Or
complimenting people is a very good thing. It's a very good thing. First of all, it internally, there's sometimes an awkwardness in acknowledging the beauty in someone else, certainly verbally. Get over that and compliment, right? It's a good thing. And the other thing is that when you compliment someone else, you bring out that positivity within them, right? But then there's a point where you cross over into flattery, which is built on a lie, just to get something from the person. There's an ulterior motive. So there's a balance to be had here.
I also read somewhere where hell lasts just a year.
Sorry? At the max, yeah. At the max, yeah.
But when you're dead, what's a year? Like how long is a year?
I don't know. So it's why we say Kaddish for 11 months.
If a day is 1,000, if a day could be 1,000 years.
It's the reverse for Hashem. It's 1,000 years is a day. But anyway, I don't know exactly what time feels like in the world to come, but certainly there is some sort of form of time.
Well, it would be based on our time because it's
To some degree, it's based on our time. Right? It's besides for that, you also there's Yom Tif in heaven too, right? There's Shabbos and Yom Tif in heaven too. So there is some sort of clock up there. How exactly they experience that time, I don't know.
Maybe it's so interesting because we see that the compliment that God gives Noah, and we can see how he's looking at the future also. Noah is told that he has remarkable qualities, but in his generation, recognizing the ultimate series of elements within centuries to come.
Yeah. Okay, so let's continue. Rabbi Lezer further stated, Kol Eda, any community, congregation, sheyesh b'chanufa, that has within it this negative element of flattery. So there's a society that's built on dishonest interaction between one another. And in other words, they're not farbrengen often enough, and definitely not having honest farbrengens. It's all fluff, all fake, all.
Drink to be serious.
So says the Gemara, Usa Kanida. This congregation is as despised as a woman during her period. When a husband and wife are not together. Shenemar, the verse reads, Ki adas chanaf, it's a verse in Eov in Job. for a congregation of flattery. Galmud translates as isolated. And isolation is linked to the experience of being a nida, a woman during her period, because she's isolated from her husband. As we'll see, she came to Karchayam, because in other countries overseas, comments the Gemara, comments Rabbi Lezer, Koidan Lenida, they refer to a woman during her period as Galmuda, as a Galmuda. My Galmuda, what's the meaning of the word Galmuda, which we translate as isolated? Where does it come from? It says the Gemara comes from the word Gemula. Gemula Mibaila means separated from her husband. Rashi cites to a verse in which the Torah says, "Vayigmal hayeled," and the child was weaned. Weaned meaning slowly moved away from his mother's chest. So thus this word gamal, which translates as weaned, means to be isolated or separated. And therefore the nida is called galmuda. So galmuda is a combination of the word gemula, to be isolated, as well as nida. It's got the da at the end. So galmuda is a combination of these two words. So there's some countries out there which refer to the woman during a period as a galmuda. Okay. And therefore the verse which says that the congregation of flatterers are like galmud, they are isolated. The isolation is like a woman during her period. Okay. This is the end of the Gemara. So now a little commentary, a little background that's somehow connected to what Robert was saying. The Jewish people, of course, in this context, of course, the husband here is Hashem. The Jewish people are the wife. There's all kinds of references to this, starting with, of course, the whole book of Shir HaShiddur, the whole book of Song of Songs, which describes the love between man and woman, is to describe the love between God and the Jewish people. Right? We have further this idea that when Hashem gave the Torah, that was the moment of betrothal. When Mashiach comes, is full marriage. Right? And we have in Eicha, specific to our point, we have in Eicha the reference to the Jewish people in exile referred to as Hoisa Kandida. They're like a woman during a period in which they're married. God and the Jewish people are married. We're still one, but we have no intimacy. There's no intimacy because we're like Anida, we're isolated. We're like this woman during that time. So we have no intimacy. Right? So if we're going to take this analogy a little further, a little more in depth, so two things can be said here, perhaps. One is that husband and wife during this period when they can't be together, they can still talk to each other. They can still share. They still live together. They still do things together, but all of it lacks intimacy. And true intimacy, not just the physical sense, but in the emotional and spiritual sense, is an open, honest, and truthful vulnerability. That's really what intimacy really is, and manifest physically too. But it's primarily a spiritual experience. At least that's how it ought to be. We're humans. We have bodies, and we like intimacy because we're humans. But in its purest form, the physical intimacy is the result of a spiritual intimacy, right? Where husband and wife are open and honest and vulnerable with each other, that leads to, or that is expressed and manifest in physical intimacy. So in that sense, perhaps the Gemara referring to the Jewish people as Nida when there's flattery. So we could extrapolate here that the Jewish people and Hashem are still talking. We're still on talking terms. Sorry? Well, we talk to Hashem. Hashem speaks to us through his Torah. Hashem's Torah is Hashem speaking to us.
Yeah,
right?
That's and learn.
That's the expression to listen to Hashem is to learn Torah, right? So Hashem can still be talking to us. A nation of flatterers can still learn Torah and still daven. So there's still communication. But honest intimacy doesn't exist in a people that's flattery. The whole thing is dishonest. So the whole thing is there. There's Torah there, there's mitzvahs there, everything's happening. But it lacks an intimacy because it lacks an honesty, it lacks a vulnerability. And that's the nida element, perhaps.
Very good example. Meaning, your wife is nida, you don't even have their attention.
Right, because you're afraid of it. The reason why we have all these separation during the period of nida is because anything that has a moment of truth between the husband and wife could lead to actual intimacy, because that's what actual intimacy is. We don't hand things, even certain things you're not supposed to say. I'll give you an example. For example, that I can't remember where I read this. The halacha is that like a husband and wife during the period of nida, shouldn't look at their wedding album together. Because it's a raw, beautiful moment. And even if not physically touching, there's an emotional component that has the same thing as physical touch, if not even more. Right? So the separation of husband and wife isn't only physical, it's much more, it's in some ways spiritual too, lacking that honest vulnerability. Right? And therefore, perhaps the nation or congregation, as the Gemara puts it, that's full of flattery, even if they technically have all the Torah mitzvahs, they're still conversing with God, they're still conversing with their husband. But it lacks that honest intimacy. And therefore, it lacks the vulnerability, it lacks the honesty, and therefore we'll never have the deep intimacy that there could be between Hashem and a Jew if we're an honest people. That's perhaps one thing. And the next thing, to Robert's point, quite literally, a woman who goes through her period, it's a minor death, which is why she's impure, right? There's a minor death. There was a potential life, but now is not there anymore. But it's also the rebirth. It's also the rebirth. The separation during her period of nida makes the intimacy post mikvah all the much deeper, because we have to refrain from being open and honest, and if it's bubbling under, and then when she comes back from mikvah and she's pure, it's much deeper, much greater, which is what exile is. The Jewish people in exile refer to as nida, the separation between the Jew and Hashem that creates a deep longing. So when Mashiach comes, it's all that much deeper. The intimacy is all that much deeper. So the negative component here, in that we're causing a separation between us and Hashem because we're dishonest, the moment we burn it down and we can go to mikvah, then the intimacy with Hashem is all that deeper. Because now we're truly being honest after all these lies. Cleansing. Like a rebirth. So mikvah is a rebirth. Right? A fetus is in water before they're born. So mikvah is a kind of rebirth after the death and the dishonesty, so to speak, of the nida. So there is the redemptive element here too, in that we're referring to a nation of flatterers, of dishonest people as nida. There's also the redemptive quality. That if they let go of it and go to mikvah, as it were, then the intimacy with Hashem is going to be all that much deeper. Perhaps. And along those lines, we have a very similar statement happening here. Rabbi Lezer further stated, Kol Eda, any congregation, that has this negative quality of dishonesty, l'soif goyla, at the end will be in exile. This is exactly what we're describing before, exile, the separation, which is referred to as nida in the verse. So ksiv hacha, what's the verse that indicates that a nation of, or congregation of dishonest flatterers end up in exile? Because ksiv hacha, the verse reads here with respect to flattery, ki adas chanaf galmud. The same verse we quoted earlier in Iyov, which says that a nation of, or a congregation, of flatterers, Galmud, is isolated. Iksiv Hasam, and it says elsewhere. It says in the book of Isaiah. Isaiah warns, there will come a day, V'amarta, and you will say, you Jewish people will say, Bilvavecha in your own hearts, Mi yolad li Yis'ela, who gave birth to me in this, who bore all this for me? I am desolated and isolated. Goyla Vesura, abandoned and in exile. Right? So it's going to come a time when the Jew is going to ask himself, well, how am I sitting here alone? Where did this all come from? How did this all happen? And in so doing, in that description, the Torah describes us as Galmuda, as isolated. That same word used to describe the nation of flatterers, as if to say, you want to know why you feel isolated and alone? Because you built a house of lies. Your relationship with God isn't honest, your relationship with people isn't honest, and that's why you're feeling left alone. And that itself is the exile. That's the exile. The exile is this feeling of being alone. But as you mentioned before, like the nida, she cleanses, it goes to mikvah, the intimacy is all that much deeper. Okay, we'll stop over here. And we have one more line tomorrow. I'm stopping here because the Gemara introduces another element tomorrow. Till now, it's all been statements from Rabbi Lezer regarding flattery. Tomorrow, we're going to have a statement from Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, comparing flattery to other negative qualities. And we'll see how they all tie in together, God willing, tomorrow. A wonderful day, Eden.
All the very best to you, Rabbi. All the very best to you all. Have a wonderful day.
You too, Judge.
Thank you.